Hello SLAPAFISH community, welcome back to another World of Tanks console video. So in this video, I'm going to be listing the top 10 most played Cold War tanks in World of Tanks console. And I'm going to be using whitestars.com for these analytics. And I'm going to be looking at sample battles. How long does sample battles go back? Or what is sample battles? Well, we're just going to go off the sample battles. So basically, also, if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing because it's free and helps out the channel a ton. So, let's just start off this list. So, the number 10 is the Leopard 1A1 with 1,413,490 battles. I'm also including win ratios because that's very interesting to see at a 50.38. So, this is, well, kind of easy to see. Why? Because Leopard 1A1 was a season reward tank, and this tank was literally everywhere. And also, it has a pretty dang good accurate gun. It was the first Leopard to come across in Cold War. And I think it might have been, no? Yeah, it was the first Leopard ever in Cold War, with its 460 alpha, with its penetration of 449 on its standard, 505 on its premium, which was super high at the time with its really good aim time at 1.7. The accuracy was 0.32, and it was fast, and it had a pretty good skin. So yeah, no wonder to see. Alright, now we move on to the number 9 spot. Now we get a tech tree tank, which is the T-72BU with 1,587,041 battles played in it with a 49.25% win ratio. Now, this was also one of the original Era 3 tanks. This was, so you had a choice between the M1A2 and the T-72BU. And it was one of the first tanks to ever carry 80 gens, because this tank carries 5 of them, and they do 1,200 damage. And it's a very mobile, heavy tank. It plays like a medium tank, but it also has somewhat good armor. Its mobility is 67.6 and it's low to the ground, and it has a pretty powerful gun at doing 550 damage per shot with a base reload time of 7.9 seconds. Now, let's move on to the number 8 spot, which is another tech tree tank, which is the M1A2 Abrams, with 1,668,193 battles played with a 48.59% win ratio. So, like I said with the T-70BU, it was one of the original Era 3 heavy tanks, one of the original Era 3 tanks, and yeah, people fought their way to had the first Era 3 tanks. Oh, that doesn't mean the M1A2 is bad or the BU is bad. The 1A2 is really good. It's one of my favorite tanks, and it's very much all-rounder tank. It has really good armor, good mobility, a great gun. It's got great penetration. It's got pretty much everything. It's the most rounded Era 3 tank there is. Now, let's move on to the number 7 spot, which is a Era 1 tank, our first Era 1 tank, of the M40A5 patent. So, yeah. Let's talk about, it has 1,714,218 battles with a 51.18% win ratio, which is the third highest win ratio on this entire list. It's a higher tier Era 1 tank. It's got great mobility, great armor, great gun, doing 390 damage per shot, and it's just an overall really good tank. And let's move on to the number 6 spot, which is the G.I. Joe Mopack, with 1,722,185 battles with a 48.05% win ratio. Now, it's very interesting to see this tank on this list because you can only buy this tank at certain times when the G.I. Joe contract comes available. But it also was the season reward tank of the G.I. Joe season. So yeah, there's also that. I mean, the Mopack also has 570 damage, and it's quite a really good tank. It's got the mobility, it's got a big gun, And yeah, especially when it first came out, this thing was quite terrifying, seeing all of them and doing 570 damage per shot. And it had decent armor with great mobility. And yeah, let's move on to the number 5th spot, which is our first light tank of this list, the M41A1 Bulldog, with 1,971,592 battles, with a 50.12% win ratio. The Bulldog is one of the 2 Era 1 light tanks for the US. And you got the Chaffee and you got the Bulldog, which the Bulldog is a great tank. The Bulldog and the Chaffee are really great. I much prefer the Chaffee, but the Bulldog is really good. It also has a really good mobility of 84-29 reverse with a pretty decent power to weight ratio of 23.41, combined with a pretty good gun, doing 200 damage per shot with a DPM of nearly 3,000, and its penetration can pretty much pin anything at Era 1. Now we move on to another Era 1 tank, which is our first tank destroyer of this list, the M116. Now the M116 is a Chaffee tank destroyer. It has been in 1,985,993 battles, with a win ratio of 48.53, which I think is pretty low. And I don't think this tank was a season reward tank. I don't believe it was. I mean, this tank is loads of fun. It's a Chaffee that has a 90mm gun that has 280 damage, and it's just a really good tank. Even if you don't put its skills or equipment on it, it can just do really good. You can do really good in this tank. It has a decent DPM of 2,584, but its penetration can easily, standard penetration can easily go through anything at Era 1 with its 262mm of penetration. Its great mobility of 61.24 and 21 reverse with power weight ratio of 21.5. So basically, it's a tank destroyer that acts like a light tank, so you can play it either way, a tank destroyer role or a light tank role. It doesn't really matter. The M116 is just a fantastic tank. Now we move on to the number 3 spot, which is the FV4005, which is the Era 1 tank destroyer, and it jumps nearly 1 million battles from the M116. So we're making huge leaps now. The M116 was 1.9 million. The 4005 is 2,718,349 battles, with a win ratio of 50.91. Now, if you've ever been on the receiving end of the 4005, you will understand why this tank is very popular, because it's very fun to play and it hits really hard if you can pin its hash. Its AP round does 1,150 damage. Its hash rounds do 1,450. It also has really good concealment for how big it is, and its mobility is really good at 56.3 forward and 22.5 reverse, with a power to weight ratio of 18.65. But it has absolutely no armor to think of, but it's just a really great combination with that gun and its mobility and its concealment if you can get it down. So yeah, let's move on to the number 2 spot. So this goes up by 500,000 battles. This is the number 2 spot is the FV4211. With 3,202,744 battles played, with a 51.99% win ratio, which also is the second highest win ratio of any tanks on this list. Yes, there is still one left, one that has a higher win ratio even than the 4211. 4211, when it first came out, and for a while, it was really hard to penetrate. It also has a really good gun at 440. Its hash has 290 millimeters of penetration. You pin it with 605 damage with 3,000 hit points. but its mobility was lacking, but the armor and the gun made up for where it was lacking in the mobility. And this was a season reward tank. So yeah, they were everywhere. Now, the number 1 spot goes to the T95E3 with 4,085,498 battles played. So, yeah. This tank, very unsurprisingly, it was one of the first premium Cold War tanks there was. There was this tank and the T55A. Also, brand new players get this tank for free. And I believe this tank was also a season reward tank at one point in time. And also is a really good tank. It's a medium tank, but it feels like it should be a heavy tank. Also, it has the highest win ratio of any tanks on this list at a 52.56%. Sitting in Era 1 doing 390 damage per shot with pretty good armor, pretty great mobility at 56 forward, and it's just overall a really good tank. And its penetration 261 on its standard 330 is easily enough to go through anything it meets in Era 1, and its armor can actually bounce a lot of stuff. Overall, the T95E6 is a great tank and it makes a lot of silver. So, T95E3. So, yeah, that's it for this video. If you like this video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, remember SLAPAFISH because why would you not? And peace out. See ya.